Everyone, and welcome to Harmony House. Thank you for coming out in the heat at the end of a long, hot day. So hopefully we'll find a little something here worth the trip in, right? Hello, Zoomers. I want to say hello. Welcome. And I just want to remind you that the theme for this month has been a slice of peace, a taste of peace. Not asking for much, is it? A little bit. And tonight, Brother Erik Larson is our guest speaker. And how many of you have heard Brother Erik talk before? So you know, as I do, that I never know what's coming. I'm always surprised by his great sense of humor, genius, and whatever angle. We go all the way from these beautiful, peaceful videos that he chooses, right down to meditating to springs and coils, if you were here for that session one day. So I don't know what he has in store, but when I knew that the topic was how do we learn to be happy? How do we learn values, but especially how do we learn peace? So I want to ask you very quickly, how many of you are mothers here? Raise your hand. How many of you are fathers? How many of you have or had a mother or a father? Okay. So I was a teacher. I still am. I tutor still. But I was a teacher for 27 years at local high school, and I taught English. And I had a recurring dream every single night before the first day of school. And the dream was the same. It was the same. I was lost. I was in a cage of, you know, the steps in the, I didn't teach in the city, but I went to school in the city. So the young child inside of me went right back to PS 166 in her dream. And it was like 4 flights of chain link and steps and all this stuff. And I'm lost and I don't know where my first class is. And the kids are going to be sitting there and they're not going to have a teacher in front of the room. And then the dream gets worse. It gets almost nightmarish because I'm not prepared when I do find the class. I'm not prepared to teach. So all of that anxiety before the first day. And then there's also no more beach, no more free time. You had 8 weeks off and now you have to go back to work. You know how your energy gets low? Let's talk about energy. So your energy gets just like, how many of you like to be on vacation? You know, you get a little free time. And I'm going back to grading English essays in high school and blah, blah, blah. So I dragged myself in the first day. By the end of the day, invariably, I have an energy I didn't have all summer. Sitting on a beach chair. By the end of the day, I have changed because 14 to 18-year-olds came running into the building, excited to meet me. I'm excited to meet them. They're going to meet 5, 6, 7 teachers, and there is an excitement. And it's priceless. And then I'd have days when my lessons were okay. But there were always those special lessons where you looked in a kid's face and you saw that they learned something. And you saw that they were excited to learn. And I have to tell you with great sadness, even though I'm retired a number of years, by the time my 27-year career ended, kids lost that excitement. And I taught honors English. I taught the advanced kids and I taught the bad kids. I liked the bad kids. They were very colorful. They were great. You know, they told it like it was, you know. But the honors kids lost there was no more raising your hand. There was no more cross discussion. How do I get an A+? How do I get an A+? You know what I'm talking about? And then there are hardship stories where I was one-on-one tutoring. I tutored for the SATs, the ACTs. I'm still doing that. This is not a commercial. I'm trying not to work anymore. Oh, you did my son 7 years ago. You gotta do it again. His sister, right? But the truth is, I go in tired, I come out exhilarated. I come out really loving it. There is such a sadness in me, though, when I see the pressure that parents, and it's all parents, but it's also when they come here from a different culture. I don't care what the culture is. I don't care if it's Asian, Indian, but they came here because they want their kids to have a good education. What happens to peace? What happens to peace in the home? I go into the home. Before COVID, I was tutoring in the home. Nobody tutored online. And I'd sit there, I couldn't take the thickness. You could smell, you could feel the tension because Johnny has to get an A. And Johnny isn't going to raise his hand and waste time in class discussing and getting excited about learning. He's going to do whatever he has to do to get that A+. And he has to go to Harvard if he comes from certain cultures because his brother went to Harvard or his cousin made it and he has to too. The saddest case I ever had, the student happened to be a Korean boy. The mother was an English teacher in Korea. And before I got there, she had graded all his assignments that I gave him for the week. This was tutoring. But he was locked in his bedroom. The room smelled of sleep. And I never like to be with a child of the opposite sex in a private room. This boy was wearing pajama bottoms every time I met him. But the saddest part of it was that the boy did not have the brain she wanted him to have. The boy had serious learning disabilities. You're shaking your head. And she would never have him tested. And I knew that he couldn't read and get into Harvard. I'm the one, and tutors don't write letters of recommendation because they don't exist in a child's life. Children are just brilliant, no tutoring. I wrote the letter that got the boy, not time and a half, but double time on the exam. He was that bad. And the ACT doesn't give double time easily. But this boy's life was in that bedroom, except he went out to go to school. This is all pre-COVID. I quit. It's the only child I ever had where I couldn't, at my stomach, you want to talk about peace? I couldn't. And I gave up the money and I quit. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do this your way. And I just said to the boy, I'm really sorry. It was just sad. So what are we doing? Did your parents put pressure on you when you went to school to achieve? Is there anyone here who had that experience? No? Are you putting pressure on your child? You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that, Zoomers. Think about, what do you want him or her to learn in school? Pretend if you're not a parent, you were somebody's child. What do your parents or do you want? What do you want? Honestly, what do you want?
For them to do as well as they possibly can without pressure and anxiety. But I was lucky. I had 3 kids who were self-motivated. No, if anything, especially with my oldest, talk to her, try and convince her that she didn't have to do as well as she did. She was valedictorian at Great Neck North. It's a question of how much fun she had. And if she, exactly. Yeah. It's all within. She was like Phi Beta Kappa in her junior year at Harvard.
Thank you for sharing that. And, but you see, in this world we're living in now, we don't have to supply the pressure. We do it to ourselves, the children, and they're competing with the neighbor, the best friend, you know, so there's pressure, pressure, pressure all around. So to answer the question of the evening, how do we teach peace? I mean, we know at home you can teach values. You can teach to be kind by modeling it, considerate. We learn all that here every week, right? But what can you do when the world, you step outside and the world, you know, has programmed your children to pressure themselves? Or look at yourself and what do you want your child to turn out to be? What kind of adult? You know what I'm saying? So what can we do? Well, I'm going to invite Brother Erik to talk right now about what we can do to teach this in the school of peace. Okay, are you ready? Okay. Just priming the pump for you, you wonderful parents and children. Yeah. Thank you. You all know Brother Erik. Do I have to introduce Brother Erik? Anybody here for the first time? Okay, you're
Welcome. Good. I'm Erik, and I'm going to be here and share wonderful and brilliant and insightful topics and thoughts for you. And it's going to spur you into a realm of brilliance and wonderment. How's that sound for a vision of the next 45 minutes or so? Thank you, Louise. Interesting story. And I do want to make you feel comfortable. There's not going to be a test. There's no pressure. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to take what we want from this conversation and presentation, and wanted to share a few things because the month is a slice of peace. And I keep thinking of pie, no pie tonight for anybody, but or cake or pizza, whatever it is. But when we talk of a slice of something, it's a piece of it. And I want us to have more than that. But there were a couple different threads that came to my mind about this. And I want to see if I can introduce those and maybe tie them together. And not sure if we're going to have a bow or a knot, or just kind of a cat of nine tails at the end or something like that. But see if we might be able to inspire ourselves and think differently, because that's what our insights are about. That's how I see it. And so we have Erik up on screen, and I believe we're going to have a different picture soon. Did we get a picture? Rather than me turning and looking at that, I'm going to see if I can see it here. I'll turn my head. But this slide behind me should say Prajapata Brahma Kumaris Ishwarya Vishwa Vijayalaya, because that's the name of the organization that that Brahma Kumaris here is about. And here we call it Global Harmony House. We teach Raja Yoga meditation, and we kind of shorten it to Brahma Kumaris. And in the English kind of words, it's Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. And in India, it's Brahma Kumaris Ishwarya Vishwa Vidyalaya. Okay, so that's what it translates to. It is actually a place of study, of learning, a university, but we don't give degrees here in the United States. So it's an organization, Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization. And it is spiritual, Raja Yoga. Who am I? Spiritual being, soul. How do I connect with the Supreme, another soul? Those are kind of the basic elements. And so it's spiritual. And we feel that it is for everyone on the planet, that everyone is spiritual, everyone is looking for more love and peace. And so it is for the world. So it's a well-named organization. But it is a university. And I want you to, along with what Louise is saying, how do we educate ourselves? How do we learn things? What is the process for that? And so as a university, maybe we'll show a picture of our main hall in Mount Abu. And this is Om Shanti Bhavan. And this is the place where I would go many years ago, still do, still exists, and be able to hear those who had been practicing Raja Yoga meditation for many years before me. And in that process, this was the facility of learning, one of them. There are many now, but this was the main hall for me as I was learning about meditation, how to make my life peaceful. And so it was an arena, a space that the university would teach at. But as we move on, there's histories of meditation. And so there is a picture now of a pathway, and want to show a couple different aspects. Can you turn this on, maybe? I have a hard time with the password. Harmony in there. It's not going for me. But this is a pathway in Greece, and it is near the area where the Plato and Socrates would have had their classes. And it's the pathway, and it's kind of in that arena. And the next picture is going to show a mural, if I got it right, and it kind of represents how they would have learned. It was a different type of a university. This is a mural on a wall. But if you notice, they have togas, which are a little like saris, if you want to think about that. But in this mural, there's a tree. And that's how I had heard that they would often study, learn outside. They would learn from nature. They would give discourses. They would be talking, but it wasn't confined to a building. Thanks. And so want to kind of offer that for us tonight, that a school, a university, a place of learning isn't only in a classroom, isn't only inside a building, isn't only with a structured environment, that we can learn outside, we can learn from a variety. And if you've been paying attention over the last few months when I come in here, you can learn from nature. And I've been showing different pictures and trees and how to look at those things. And so I want to bring a couple of those things together, that from the outside, we might be able to learn some things. And we're going to see if we can bring in a little piece on this. And so next slide is going to show us kind of not the ruins, but the grounds where the Greeks would have learned. And I think this is a historical area for Plato, where they would have had some of their buildings are gone now, but this is the land. Who knows if it's burnt to the ground now or earlier on, but just that sense that can we keep that mindset for ourselves to be open to learn and to expand. And actually, want you to go back to the time when something new came along and you learned that or you mastered that, what that feeling was like, or bring that feeling into the room. Like, aha, I understand it now. And that energy, that feeling of accomplishments, there's something that comes with that ability to keep learning. So one of the things I want to invite you to do is continue to study whatever it's going to be, so that there is always a newness, a freshness, an energy. When you stop learning and think you know it all, or too tired or something like that, it's not a good sign. That's my opinion. And so how can I keep learning? And here, Brahma Kumaris University, we're always learning about ourselves. How can I be more peaceful? How can I be more loving? How can I increase my contentment? How can I master my mind so that I have thoughts that are going to be accurate and appropriate? And we can always learn more about that. But there's more in the world that we can learn about also. And so a little history of learning from outside, learning from people, learning from observations. And so I had the chance to do some traveling recently, and was on a plane and didn't go to Greece, but went to Chicago. And this is not a picture of Chicago, but it is an inspiration. And one of the things I kind of practiced when I was away, and this was a couple of weeks ago in August, is that if you look for something, you will find it. If you have it in your mind, it will make itself available. And I went for a conference, which I'll tell you more about soon, but took this picture from the plane because it was so peaceful. Okay. I mean, it's just, you're above the clouds, and the clouds were very abundant. Underneath it was raining and gray and, not so nice, but just up above the clouds in the plane, 32,000 feet, very calm and blue and white. It's all you saw. Just the whole horizon was on top of the white clouds, and they were so soft. The feeling was, I just want to, kind of pat them a little. I want to just touch them and feel how soft they were. They were probably tormented, underneath and such like that, but from up above, so peaceful. And so that the peace wasn't in the clouds, but my interpretation of what I was seeing activated that experience inside of me. I have been practicing trying to have certain qualities, peace being one of them. And so when I have that awareness and look for that, that's what I saw on these clouds. And the learning of that process is that there are a number of elements, triggers, images, kind of jumping off points that might help me claim that, experience that. And so I want to offer and kind of see if tonight we move towards that feeling of anything might have the possibility to create the experience that you want if you start to look at it in a way that makes it fit. Because if you have the lens of peace in your mind, that I'm looking for more peace and I'm going to practice that, and you're going to see elements that might trigger that. And then to be able to hold on to that, or to feel that, or to go into the experience of what has been activated inside of us. The peace is inside of us. It's not outside of us. We're not looking for it. We're rediscovering it, remembering that, accessing it. I want you to see if that makes some sense in your life. You can practice this the rest of the month. Are the qualities I'm looking for available to me? And can I reach into myself to activate those? And can I benefit from little things outside of me that remind me of that quality? The peace isn't in the clouds. The clouds were moving, and actually, if the plane would have gone down into them, it probably would have crashed. I mean, that was kind of the energy that they had underneath. They were very thick. but they look so nice. And so the reality was what I was seeing them with, as opposed to what they might have been. Does that make some sense? Because we landed then in Chicago and came down through the clouds. Maybe we're still up there circling around. We don't circle that much anymore, but as it changed, there's a meditation center in Chicago. How many of you have been to Chicago? Okay, few. Interesting city. Okay, because along the lake in the city, it's open. Lakeshore Drive is there, and they've got a lot of park along that. So the lake is very available. Okay, and so the center on Belmont Avenue in the Lakeview area, if you know that, Lincoln Parkish, a couple blocks from the water. And so I was able to walk to the water, and they had a park and some new there was a statue there, and it just kind of caught my attention. And with that sense that it was a garden, there were plantings, it was open, it was by the water. It was a very nice day. I just took a walk, and so saw this picture, and you can see it now also. And it's an image, but what I discovered as I was walking around is how it can change and how our perceptions and perspectives differ. And so I could have said, well, here's a picture of, I don't know if it had a name. It probably had a name. I don't know what it is, but of a running man. Okay, maybe you can see that in this picture. But if we go to the next one, as we walk around, and it's going to have a little slide transition here. It's a totally different type of a feeling. Okay, it's very heavy looking from the front, but from this side, same perspective or same image from a different point of view. It's leaning forward, it's got that energetic feel, and it's very thin. Where before it was very broad and heavy, now it's very thin in that process. And I kind of got captivated by how it changes, and was thinking that that's necessary for us, not to see something from one perspective only, but to be able to play with things and see it from different angles, different perspectives, and learn a deeper part of that. And from this statue, I was thinking about what we do here. We don't just take information. Somebody says you are a soul. Okay, that's good. Well, how can I work with that individually? How can I see myself? How can I feel myself? How can I look at it from a different perspective? How can I learn more about the subject by seeing it from a different way? And it's not just, this is the only way you can look at this statue. And this isn't the only way you can look at yourself. Where am I? Who am I? How does it feel to be me? Those questions help me discover my true self. And then there's another perspective of this statue, and that's from the rear. And in this aspect, is that what we got there? Yeah. And it's kind of matched up against one of the high rises, a lot of apartments along the lake shore overlooking the lake. Very nice view. Harbor boats, things like that going on. And so here's the backside of that statue. And it's got a different feel because it's got a different background. Okay, one is for the lake, one is with the city. So it looks like he's going to knock that building down. He's so big, something like that. But just kind of brought these pictures into tonight to show that when we study, when we're in a college, when we're educating ourselves or in a university, we can learn a lot from being outside by being aware, by having that sense that what am I going to look for? And what am I going to see? Because there was more along the lakefront. I'm going to have a kind of a travel log tonight. And as we were there, it got a little windy. And so wanted to show you a quality of the water I was there and there was this little group, we can change the slide, yeah, of kids. And they were probably, it wasn't school, so they must have been some sort of a camp, but they were probably 5, 6, 7, a variety in that age group. And they were walking with their tutors or their teachers or their camp counselors or whatever it was. And we were both, me and this group of kids, watching the waves. Okay, because it was windy and it was moving, and this was just a small wave because you're walking right along the water, and there's these concrete pathways. But if you know Chicago at all, the water can kind of slosh over, and so the waves were hitting, big waves, and we were all going ooh, and the kids were screaming, and just kind of watching the waves splash on the land. And it was pretty dramatic. Okay, and try to build it up for that. But at the same time, in the next picture, if you can zoom in on that, I don't know if you can see this, zoom in on the ducks. If you can you do that, Narayan? In this picture, there's probably 10 little ducks kind of floating along. And in this torrential upheaval of the water splashing and waves, these ducks are just kind of floating along. And why I bring that into tonight is they were very calm and peaceful. They were dealing with their situation. They were able to manage what was going on. They were staying on top of it, and they didn't, get bothered. They weren't upset, even though these waves were coming in, big waves crashing, oohs and ahs. They were just kind of paddling along. And I thought it was a wonderful example of a way we can learn to live. There's going to be stuff happening in our lives. There's going to be all sorts of upheavals, difficulties, challenge, obstacles, stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. You have stuff going on in your life? Okay. But these ducks were a great example, as I was watching, of just stay on top of things, float with it, rise above, go down. It's hard to get a picture of them because the waves were kind of modulating all the time, undulating, however it was, crashing in. And the ducks would kind of appear and then they would disappear. But they just were kind of paddling along. And so the view of that experience of looking at the waves, having that sense that I'm in a university, the world is a place to learn. It's a university. It is that element of what can I see, what can I observe, and what can I take benefit from? And kind of pushing out tonight that any moment, anywhere, anytime, anything is available to us. Okay? Just think of that. You have the ability to experience whatever you want in the world at any time. If we're open for it, if we want to. The world, outside, inside, everywhere, is a place for us to take benefit from, educate ourselves. And so we went from the ducks in the water to the conference that I actually went there for. And what is this? Oh, no, one more picture. This was an image of the same picture, of the same statue coming back from the ducks, walking back towards the center. And it was the epitome of what peace is. There was this couple sitting there, calm. They were just in the moment. Maybe they walked there and they were sitting. I sat down on a couple different benches and curbs and whatever. But they were there, and just as looking at the clouds, there was that quality of peace. Looking at this couple sitting on the bench, looking kind of not necessarily at the statue, but kind of through the statue, however they were. But they were very calm. And I felt that quality at that moment. And so were they really calm? Maybe they were just angry with each other, not talking. I don't know. Who knows what actually was going on with them? Maybe they were tired. Why did we go this so far? I don't know. I'm not going to look at you. But the way I was understanding and reading into the situation is they had found a moment of peace. Simple, appreciating that, understanding that, being so in the moment that the qualities that are natural just were available and very calm and peaceful. Does anybody else see that in this picture? That quality, just at harmony. And so all four sides of the statue, different perspectives, different ways of understanding and kind of reinforcing that process of learning. That this is a time, this is a chance for us to learn more. And because we are open, because we're learning, there's an energy that grows in that. And so the energy we use at the conference. And so the next picture was the table of the Brahma Kumaris. And I don't know if you can see, but there are four banners. The conference was called the Parliament of World's Religions in Chicago. And it was 30 years ago that they had one. And 100 years before that, there was an individual named Vivekananda who introduced Hinduism to the West. And that was in Chicago. So it was kind of a memorial aspect. But at this conference, Brahma Kumaris have gone to many of them every 5 years or whatever around the world. It is, as far as they say, and I believe this, one of the largest or the largest interfaith gatherings of communities. And so there are about 7,000 or 8,000 individuals and I don't know, 2 or 3 different hundred traditions, at least represented, all sorts of individuals. And they had booths and they had conferences and there was dialogues and there were presentations. And we have a booth there, and it was a chance for us to introduce the university to those who are interested. Lots of people are busy. Lots of people are, going to this and going to that. And we were quite active also. But the booth was set up so that as you would go by it, it wasn't very fussy. Some very nice artwork from an artist who's deceased from Iceland. And it's just very simple for banners. Can you see the banners? Can you make out that they're kind of images of people standing there, golden and such like that? And then in the table, we just had 3 little bowls. One was a question, and rather than trying to say everything about the history and the organization and what we do and sell things, we've done that before. It was more of, here, take one of these cards. And the cards had questions on them. And the questions were connected to the themes of the parliament. And compassion was a big part of it. And so rather than, here's a flyer, here's what we do, here's the things going on, here's this, we had just one little rack that had our programs, but it had a question on it. And for example, what does your tradition say about compassion? And how do you model that in your life? And a variety of those questions were there, and we'd ask people to take one and they'd read it, and everybody gave the same answer. It was amazing. Different questions, but everybody gave the same answer. You know what the answer was? Because it made them stop and think. Let me think about that for a second. Everybody did that because they're so used to picking stuff up, but they read it and they really had to, let me think, and then we engaged in a conversation, and it wasn't trying to convince them of anything. It wasn't trying to share any, teach them anything. It wasn't trying to proselytize. It was basically compassion was a theme. What does it mean? And whatever the questions were, And we had some really nice, rich conversations. And that's what the parliament was about. Different people coming together who can communicate and share, even though they're quite different in some of their beliefs. But what do those beliefs help you become? What is your education? What is your schooling? What is your learning help you in your life? And so after a little conversation, some were long, some were shorter, we had another bowl with the link of love. It's kind of like the Rocky tied on her wrist. And it was a reminder of their tradition and how that might be helpful for the compassion. And after that, we had another bowl for a blessing and gave them a blessing. And so we had some very nice interactions. And why don't you click on the slide, if you can picture that. And this one, I believe, is just to prove. Yeah, that's me. I was there. So this is, we're not making this up, all right? So see, this is a testimonial. But yeah, I clipped that out. And so I was there. So just this is actually true stuff. There you that you're hearing tonight. You can click through the next one. Because at the booth, we had presentations, and there was a variety. There's about a dozen of us, and just wanted to share that we had a program on the Brahma Kumaris Raja Yoga meditation. And so we had an hour and a half. And we thought, well, if people come, we should probably tell them what we do, who we are. And so we had 4 of us there, 2 talkers and 2 musicians, 1 musician and 1 meditator. And basically, we wanted to share kind of the 4 main principles of Raja Yoga. It is an education. It's not in a school, but it was at a conference and such. One is soul, another is soul world, another is supreme soul, and then future world, okay, golden age. These are some of the principles of the Brahma Kumaris. We believe that we're more than just the body. We're soul, Atman, and we have these qualities of peace. And we come from a place, you know, where there is another element, another dimension, soul world that we have experienced before, true peace. And there are other souls there, you know, and one is supreme soul, God. And we have a relation, that's Raja Yoga. And so we talked about these things, and probably about 10 minutes, 8-9 minutes talk, and then 8-9 minutes of the musician playing harp and someone doing a commentary. And so a little something to think about, and then a little something to experiment with. And so the 2 on the left were the talkers, and the 2 on the right were the meditation commentary and musician. And so that was our presentation. There were a number of other lectures and panels and lots of heady things going on, but this was the one that we got a chance to actually see if we could communicate what we knew and what we felt. And that's a big part of what we study here. We might learn something, but am I practicing it in my meditation? Am I bringing that into my life? Am I able to embody that and share that and have that with others? That's the education of the Brahma Kumaris. It's a university to learn how to take information, how to apply that and experience that, how to practice that, and how to share that. Those are the kind of the main subjects. And so that was just a way to recognize that we have the ability to learn and teach anywhere, anytime. This is, if you know Chicago, McCormick Place, big, huge, concrete structure, just vast. It's more like a parking garage in some of the levels, but why not learn about God and peace in a parking garage, you know? Can you think of a better place? So as we moved on, next slide, wanted to share this one because this is quite profound. If you can recognize that there's 3 screens, I guess that one on the right-hand side is my face. Up there, yeah. But there are 2 screens, one in the middle is actually the backdrop, and the speaker is that little white speck above the person sitting there. They had seats for, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, huge, vast room. And this person sitting there with their phone, I'm sure they're very peaceful. Somebody else is talking, half a mile away in the hall. It was the last speaker at the opening after 3 hours. Most people had left. He's given some, we have to do this, save the world, compassion, fix these things. And she's peacefully checking her email way in the back. So no matter what's going around, whether it's the ducks on the water and there's turbulence, whether you're above these tormented clouds or whatever, or you're in a conference and someone is giving the speech of their life, you still have the freedom to experience how you're going to interact and how you're going to deal. And that's what she did. And actually, there were a lot of people throughout the week who were sitting in the back because they could find a chair and they were able to, sit. It was a cool spot also. But you had probably 3 or 4 different layers of screens because, you couldn't see what was on stage from the 10th row back. And so one more picture. And I think that's the place we're going to stop and pause for me and see if we might interact and have some conversation. But I wanted to maybe see if this could be a trigger for you. And what I mean by that is it possible for you to look at those clouds? Take yourself beyond whatever's going on here and now in the world and just fly above it. And know that you are okay and that everything that causes any concerns is down below and you can't see it, but you are in a realm of peace. And move into that awareness that you are at peace, that you are above anything of concern. It's still going on, still happening. And see if you can use your education, your spiritual study to access that feeling of peace here, now. We'll be silent for a moment. And hold on to that peace. But I'm going to invite Sister Louise to come up in front with her microphone and see if there's anyone in the hall who has a epiphany or an insight or a comment or something that they would want to share. And we'll see if we can invite the Zoomers then shortly after that. How are you doing? Any comments? We got a hand over here.
Michelle. Say hi to the Zoomers.
Hi, Zoomers. See you next week. That was great, Brother Erik. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun. Is it okay if it's fun?
Fun is a big part of it.
I always laugh. I love the because I absolutely understand that because you engage them with the question.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to comment on, and it's interesting, the last few days, and it's always at work. But in my work, there are these little, almost like covens of people that stay together and they talk about each other. And I try very hard to, because I like everyone. I try to like everyone there. I give them a shot, and it's amazing. There were a bunch of people. I was just thinking this week that the perspective is, if you look at people with a clear windshield, not with that dirty windshield. What I mean by dirty windshield, other people
Mm.
throwing their dirt on the windshield, and then you see the people in the same way. But I was thinking there were a few people in the office that others have thrown dirt on.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm articulating this right. Those people who threw the dirt are gone.
Oh.
And the people that are left are the dirty people, the ones that had been told, oh, they're no good. They're delightful. They are just, with my own perspective and keeping my own, I'm going to deal with them without listening to others and just take them for what I see.
Okay.
And I have never been happier at work. I find the
Nice.
people are delightful. So, do not take on, other people's dirt.
Yeah.
And that is something that I felt this week, especially. It was very interesting how there's not as much covens anymore. I just kind of
good.
move around.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense because it's a huge lesson that's reinforced here a lot is how other people's opinions, visions can affect, pollute, our awareness of somebody else. If we listen to other people's stories, then that's going to be an influence. It's going to be a filter. It's going to be something that affects us. And I want you all to practice a clean intellect for the next year, frankly, because you're probably getting mailings of political ads, okay? And they are not uplifting, if that might be an acceptable way to describe them, because they are talking about others in a very negative way, exactly to do that, to slant your intellect so that you have a thought about someone, which is maybe there's a sliver of truth in what they say, but there's a broad perspective. And so watching not only what the political advertisers are trying to do to you, but the world is trying to do. And so how do you clean your intellect? How do you keep your mind free so that you have the sense of knowing what is right in relationship of yourself and with others and is true? And it's not easy. We get all sorts, and most people have some sort of an influence that affects their opinion of others. And anybody who doesn't agree with me is wrong, right?
Right. Anyone else?
You're in the hall. Sure.
You're in the hall.
I want to, I had a thought when you first started speaking. You said something like anything can happen, or is that what you said?
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay. And it reminded me of my experience of, the universe, how sometimes we plan and we have expectations. And I do my mileage. I submit mileage because I drive a lot for my job. And because I try to be super organized, I do it. Sometimes I do it ahead of time. And the universe always corrects me. It's like, oh, it's August 30th. I'll wrap up for the month, da, da, da. And then bing, something happens, like totally out of nowhere. And it's not a problem necessarily, but I always take that opportunity to say, wow, I'm not really in charge here. There's so much happening. And this image was very powerful because what Michelle was just saying about her job, this is why, one of the reasons why I come here, to be in that image,
Okay.
to embrace that and try to bring that to the world. It's very hard for me though. So
Okay. It's hard, to learn anything new and to get better at any skill. And that's kind of what I have tried to do. And when I see an image like this, those are triggers for what's inside of me. And so the more I can see that and the more I can make that quicker, then that quickness is kind of like a film. It might be little moments, but if you put them all together, it is alive. And so that peace can be alive in us all the time. if we are practicing that, if we are supporting that, if we're looking for that, those images come, that experience comes. And then because we have that experience, we see that everywhere too. Quite fascinating, that mechanism of developing. And if you can go back, all of you might have had this experience. I don't know if all of you, but do you remember using a pencil, a big blue pencil to learn to write? Did you ever get blisters and how hard that was to make the lines and do these things? It was like, oh, you know, wish you all made it through, I think. Okay. I hope you did. I don't know if they teach cursive writing anymore or anything like that. Who knows what they teach? But that was hard too. Everything is hard, but once we start doing it, we get better and it becomes easy. And then we don't think about it. Everything, you know. Think of how you learned the computer mouse. What was this for, you know, first time it was all over, you didn't know. It's like, I know it's okay. Everything is, when it's new, it's like, oh my gosh. And so if we can recognize that we just have to keep trying in our meditation, I can't always be peaceful. Of course not. So we got to keep trying something and practicing something. I wanted to be a little more kind. Okay, well, practice being kind, you know, and it might be hard, but it gets easier. Very simple that way.
Anybody?
Sure. You can change the picture, Narayan. if you're still
Apologize, I'm
there.
gonna be really quick, but just to go back to piece of, you know, the slice. It came from Peace Pizza. It was Ram he had made a Peace Pizza in Peace Village, and we
Okay.
thought that would be it. But I thought about a slice that, you know, when you talk about life.
Yeah.
If we're if I'm a pizza pie, 8 slices, I better make sure that every slice has something. It's spirit, it's my body, it's my family, it's everything. And to be a whole pie, you need everything.
Okay.
So, and sometimes we don't.
But because you
give
brought in
words.
pizza, I have to tell you that there are 2 types of people in the world. Those who think of the world as a pizza, and those who think of a world as a candle. You're in one or the other, and I hope you're in the candle, because if you think in pizza, okay, there's only 8 pieces or whatever, and when it's gone, it's gone. Okay, so you better hurry and grab because there's only a limited amount. But if you live in the world of candle, you light a candle, you can light another candle from it, and everybody grows from it. You don't lose anything by helping somebody else. Okay, and so are you generous? Are you compassionate? Are you giving? Is there abundance? Do you live in a world that there's plenty? Or are you going to be not enough, guarded, got to get mine, you, me or you? That's the end of it. World of pizza, world of candles. Very nice. We're getting a little close.
Yeah. Anybody on Zoom want to say something?
Are they okay?
Is someone there?
We've got a thank you kind of script going on, I think, here. But Narayan Bhai, are they able to unmute and talk if they want to? Okay. Anyone on Zoom
Yeah.
would like to unmute and say hello or goodbye?
Beautiful. Yeah, that was a beautiful share, Brother Eric, about the pizza. That said it all. Thank you.
Great, yeah. We can go to Gino's tonight.
If no one is volunteering, I have a little something that happened this morning. Anybody here have something?
Om
Anybody on
Shanti.
Zoom? There you go. Hi.
Hi there. I like wondered, Brother Eric talking about the cloud, so peaceful. As I was flying 2 weeks ago, I felt that peace floating in the air. I also like the ducks. The ducks floating, their feathers. So if you should tie something on the legs of those ducks, they will sink. So that's why they are light, become light. Let your soul become light. Don't have attachment to nothing in this world. Because if you're light, you're able to be free. The ducks didn't make the wave bother them or nothing. They're just floating around. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, thank you. You won't tie the ducks down.
No.
Put away. All right.
Well,
we have
before, I have a few short announcements, but did you want to say something
No.
first?
No.
You know, I just want to say this morning, as quickly as I can, I had a little incident where I was going to the ladies' room in Stop and Shop, but a man was in there cleaning. And, you know, I'm busy thinking of my own stuff, and I thought I walked into the wrong room because it was a man in there. And he got kind of angry. What do you mean? I am cleaning. And he really had attitude. But I think what I'm hearing today is that we have a big word around here called detachment. I have to detach from my old ways of thinking and defending myself and maybe how dare he and reacting to this person. So as I'm washing my hands and finishing up, and of course he stepped outside, he's out there, and without even thinking in words, how can I turn this around? Because I'm trained here, I'm brainwashed here to see everybody as a soul. It may have a delay. And what happened was I just looked at him and I said, those plants in there are really beautiful. And he just looked me right in the eye and he said, I did those. I mean, I hit it lucky or what? But he was different. His eyes were different. He had the 5 minutes or 3 minutes I was in there to process. So I find if I just detach and shush, sometimes I surprise myself by the power of saying nothing, you know, but I've got to switch the gear that I may have been in all this lifetime and maybe others. And now I just have to give you announcements. So you want to say something quick?
Anything can happen in that moment when you're bringing your consciousness to it, and that just arose out of you. And it's right.
You're right. You can stop the video.
Mm.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're up there, you can stop it.
I'm
Go
going to do announcements real quick, okay? So next week we have Brother Tony talking about contentment. And we also have a book reading. You can read about that in the flyer on the wall, or of course call Harmony House. That's on Sunday, this coming Sunday, 5 to 6:30 in the evening. And on Saturday, September 30th, that's a big day for us, from 2 to 5. We're doing it that time. Calling all ambassadors of peace. We had peace in the park. We've been talking about how you personally can be an ambassador for peace and what you can do yourself. And we're having a in-person here. It is in person, right? Okay. And that's from 2 to 5 and Saturday, September 30th. And lastly, we do have meditation courses beginning in Hindi and in English, and we have them all through September. So if you're interested in taking the meditation course, the beginning course, just call Harmony House and they'll fill you in on dates. There are also flyers on the wall, and that's it.
That's
And thank you.
That's almost it. If you would care to, I brought some of the blessings from the Parliament, and so you are welcome to come and receive one of those on your way out.
Beautiful. In the back or here?
Right here.
Okay. All
So-
right. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming, and we will be having our hybrid programs, both live here Thursday night, 6:30 to 8, and on Zoom. But it's wonderful to have you here and to be able to engage and see you and interact. So thank you very much for coming. And thank you all who are on Zoom for coming, and maybe see you here next week too. Om Shanti. Good
Oh, we're
night.
air conditioning. Air conditioning. Come on.
It's good. So if
Om Shanti. Have a good week.
Om Shanti, everyone.